What's up everyone, wait here. Today I got this one right here. Why are modern games broken and unfinished? Let's react to it.
What's up friends, it's ENDYMION, and you ever find
man?
yourself playing a video game that you've been eagerly anticipating, only to realize that the game either doesn't work, runs terribly, or should have been delayed? Well, my friends, you may have encountered a classic problem called modern gaming syndrome, and that's what I want to talk about today. Why are so
And we kind of got used to it, like, we don't expect that much anymore. It's kind of
many
sad.
games busted these days? It's really weird because out of all the industries in the world that I can think of, it's only video games to my knowledge that seem to suffer from this. But before we begin, let's hear from the sponsor of this video, Hero Wars. Here is an interesting fact. There are many different and unique characters in Hero Wars. We have cyborgs, aliens, vampires, even furries won't be.
Like, if you have nothing better to do, just do it.
My personal choice is Chaba. Find your favorite champion in Hero Wars today. Imagine buying a car from a dealership and the salesman just tells you, oh yeah, the brakes sometimes just don't work. Also, the airbags aren't deploying properly, but we'll fix that later. And also the wheel.
The thing is, I don't really give a shit anymore if there are bugs at the beginning, because we will fix them eventually, and this is something pretty bad. But we got used to that shit. Like, at the beginning, when that shit came out, like completely bugged, like Cyberpunk 2077, that was horrendous, man. Like, I was just fuming all the time. Like, with every single release, we all had the same problem with bugs. But now I just don't care anymore. I just wait till they are gone, and after that, we're gonna buy that game. Probably. Or not.
Wheels might fall off if you go over 80, but like, yeah, we'll fix that too. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Nothing bad will happen, probably. Yet when it comes to video games, it's business as usual for the most part, and it makes me feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Ask yourself if there's any other product in the world that you buy that doesn't work like a modern video game. I'm sure there's rare examples, like maybe you're missing some screws from an IKEA furniture set, or the 1 in 1 million smart TVs ships defective. But the common experience amongst people when it comes to video games is kind of insane to me. I guarantee almost everyone watching this knows at least one person who suffered the red ring of death back in the day.
We did.
And even then, you will have paying customers.
Like, it was not my console, it was the console of my console, but yeah, I kind of experienced it because I use the console all the time.
Who will protect these products like their lives depend on it. Like, why are you white knighting for companies who don't care about you? It's weird, but anyway. This all came to a head for me when I was playing the Dead Space remake. The game is fun as hell, and I loved revisiting it, but it also had problems. I would say about 15 times or so, the game either didn't work properly or had glitches that would result in having me reload in order to fix them. Entire sections of the game wouldn't work correctly, with objectives not updating, items or sequences I needed for progression just...
I can look over that, because the Dead Space remake was nearly perfect. Like, it's insane how good it is.
Not appearing, or bizarre visual glitches like this one, where the game's camera froze on the save station and my Isaac was released from the game's camera, and while it was goofy, it was annoying me as well. The craziest visual glitch I had was near the end of the game, where I loaded my save and the game just went full-blown first-person mode on me. All my guns couldn't be selected, I couldn't open my menu, but I was free to walk around in first person, and not gonna lie, I was kind of feeling it. I mean, sure, it's glitched, which sucks, but like, I wouldn't mind a first-person mode for Dead Space. Like, look at this. It's actually
this feels a bit more horrifying.
Kind of cool. Insane. Well, besides not being able to fight back and then dying because the game isn't running properly. Then we have games like Forspoken, which are the definition of development hell in modern gaming. This game is a PlayStation 5 console exclusive, yet it looks like it came out years ago. The characters' faces look lifeless, and the world is about as empty.
The thing is, this engine they used in Forspoken was so horrendous they didn't know how to program shit. Because it was used in another game, I think it was it Final Fantasy 15? I think that one, yeah. And it was just horrendous. They couldn't do anything. This is why it might turn out like this. Like, what can you do if the tools don't even work? So even with motivated workers, nothing goes.
He has a nun's love life. Everything about this game screams problems with a capital P. Not to mention that I'm not fond of these various modes like performance, quality, or ray tracing. Why should I have to pick between 60 FPS or better quality graphics? Why not just include all of them in one mode? I know some will say, well, it's because the PS5 can't handle that, but that's BS. Because back when the PS5 released, one of its launch titles was Spider-Man Miles Morales. When that game launched, it too had multiple different modes like Forspoken, which was disappointing to me because this was a brand new console generation. Surely the PS5 could handle it, right? Well, turns out I was right, but it all came down to time constraints. Sony and Insomniac Games would end up releasing an update a mere month after launch that combined both the ray tracing and 60 FPS settings into a single mode. Now you could enjoy smooth gameplay and reflective surfaces, and looking at Spider-Man and Forspoken, there's no excuse why it runs and looks the way that it does. Especially since Forspoken is PS5 and PC only, arguably the two strongest current forms of gaming hardware available right now. But like with Spider-Man, the game was clearly capable of being better, but it was due to time constraints and developer prowess. Insomniac Games as a developer are knuck and futz when it comes to making games, however, they're somehow capable of creating bangers on a consistent basis. The people there are wizards when it comes to making games. But even I have to admit that Miles Morales, when it released, caused my PS5 to crash at least once, which scared the bejesus out of me. Since it was the peak of the pandemic and there was no way in hell I'd be able to secure another PS5.
Yeah, if it crashes sometimes, it's something which happens. Like, I kind of got used to it. I think that's something which is not that bad, especially in a single player game.
In my situation. The point is that too many games these days are broken at launch, and it sucks. And as graphical fidelity increases as well as demand for more content does too, eventually something has to give. By the way, Hero Wars is a world of 6 unique modes and 100 million players. You can play alone or with friends. Also, be sure to try out the Titus mode, become a legend, play Hero Wars now. Look at Halo and the developer of that dumpster fire over at 343 Industries. That game's development was hell on earth, and apparently over at Microsoft, the Game Pass model isn't exactly doing the gangbusters they expected either. Microsoft's earnings report on Xbox.
Like, I bought this game, I thought this was it. This is the revival of Halo. We are back at it again, baby. But nah, it was a fucking disappointment, man. It's insane.
Got posted, and I'll spare you all the intricate corporate stuff and just tell you the bullet points. In Xbox's quarterly earnings, it was revealed that Xbox hardware revenue was down 13%. Their gaming revenue was also down 13%, their services and content went down by 12%, and there's an overall decline in their first-party content and lower monetization of...
And now they have fired most of 343 Industries, like, I think 10,000 employees in Microsoft got, like, deleted.
Their third-party endeavors too. Basically, Xbox is reeling in disappointment. It even led to Microsoft laying off 10,000 people across their many businesses. Some of that, unfortunately, did hit their gaming side, with 95 people being laid off that we know of from 343 Industries, the current devs on Halo. To put that in perspective, that 10K layoff is about 5% of the entirety of Microsoft's workforce, which head of Xbox Phil Spencer said was a painful choice. Some of the other people laid off besides from 343 also came from Bethesda, the company responsible for Fallout, The Elder Scrolls, and more. This massive layoff has drawn a bunch of scrutiny from the gaming press, with VideoGames.com posting an article stating how Microsoft can afford to buy things like Activision Blizzard but can't keep the thousands of people employed. This corporate game of buying companies then discarding the actual humans behind it will have effects going forward. Of course it will. And it's only going to make the games coming from Microsoft suffer in quality even more. I mean, things have gotten so bad for Halo that Microsoft has essentially hit the reset button on the entire studio, and development is apparently being pulled from supporting Halo Infinite, which, mind you, was marketed as being a platform for many Halo adventures to come, which is anything but. And amidst the layoffs, it's been reported that 343 is currently working on another Halo game codenamed Tatanka, which is supposed to be a Halo Battle Royale of some kind. And apparently, while Halo Infinite was being developed, instead of making content for that game, devs were instead...
You exactly know that this game will be like hype for at least 1 week and then it's gonna die off. And that's it.
Working on prototypes for future Halo games and pitching them to the studio heads instead of fixing what was the current problem. So as you can see, the entire situation surrounding 343 Industries, Halo, and really all of Microsoft is kind of a giant mess. This internal struggle to make games complete before releasing them, however, is nothing new for places like Microsoft. As it turns out, according to a leaker named Horns, who has leaked many Xbox-related things in the past, they leaked that Hi-Fi Rush was going to be dropped during the most recent Direct before it happened. They also leaked more info that allegedly paints Microsoft's future as even more bleak. According to Horns, Redfall, the new game from Arcane, is in rough shape. Despite showcasing new gameplay recently during a live stream, that announcement ended up causing more mixed reactions than Microsoft had intended.
Why announce it at all?
Horns then went on to leak that Starfield is currently being eyed as Microsoft's ace in the hole, and that they also want that game to release in 2023 to recoup financial losses. But here's the thing, that game isn't anywhere close to ready. And as if that wasn't bad enough, apparently Diablo 4 is also in rough shape too, which is apparently set to launch this June, but I have a feeling it'll get delayed too. But delays are normal these days, since even Jedi Survivor is getting delayed to April, and honestly, I'd rather have a game be delayed and be great than have another Cyberpunk situation on our hands.
The thing is, Cyberpunk got delayed multiple times, and yep, this is very
The depressing part of the AAA modern gaming industry is how deep these issues run. People have been complaining about unfinished games for well over a decade now, yet it keeps happening. Games are constantly being pushed out before they're ready, and it ends up making you as the player become a surprise beta tester.
Don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited for next product.
But the only difference is you paid full price to be one instead of the publisher paying you to beta test their game. Funny how that keeps happening, huh? You also have companies constantly pushing out new live service games every other month only to shut them down fast, like with The First Soldier over at Square Enix, or Hyperscape at Ubisoft, or Rumbleverse from Epic Games. Actually, Rumbleverse's cancellation is insane because that game just came out in August 2022, and it's being shut down already, not even a full year after release. The Rumbleverse Twitter account announced out of nowhere, quote, "We have an important announcement to share. On February 28th, 2023, Rumbleverse servers will go offline. Players who have made any purchase since launch will be eligible for a refund. We thank you so much for playing." End quote. Well, at least they're refunding people who bought cosmetics, I guess. The same can't be said for other online games like Hyperscape. It's just insane to me that you can spend real money on cosmetics within a game only for the publisher to kill said game. And now they have your money and you don't have the thing you've paid for. If it isn't apparent yet, it's that the modern gaming industry is a mess, and that's putting it lightly. Look, I understand companies need to make money, but these kinds of things keep happening even though it should never become the norm. Even EA has gone ahead and cancelled not one but two of their mobile games with Apex and Battlefield Mobile. Apex wasn't even out for a full year either, it released in May 2022. And to keep the bad news going, EA will also not be issuing refunds for cosmetics bought either, citing that the
Bro, I got interrupted for like 20 minutes, I'm sorry.
Are not refundable due to the terms of the EA user agreement, which is shady as hell. CEO Andrew Wilson also commented saying they are sunsetting this version of Apex Mobile. But that doesn't mean they're done with mobile ports of Apex or other franchises. A PR rep for the company stated, quote, EA plans to reimagine a connected Apex mobile experience in the future, and Wilson assures investors that mobile gaming will become a future venture for Apex as a franchise, end quote. While none of this spells well for EA, we have to remember the blunder that was
the thing with like those cross-play games which are like on the mobile phone and on the PC or console is that they can't reach their maximum potential. Especially with games like Genshin Impact, you know? Like they try to balance it around mobile and PC, and that's the thing I hate so much about it. Like you could get some spin-offs on mobile, get that money that way, but the potential just gets immediately killed. It's insane.
Was Battlefield 2042. That game is the epitome of the modern gaming curse when it released to universal backlash.
Yep.
2042 did
Classic.
so badly that older versions of Battlefield have more players playing them than it.
What the hell?
EA also said during their meeting with investors, quote, "We're hard at work at evolving Battlefield 2042 and are in pre-production on our future Battlefield experiences at our studios across the globe. As we look at the mobile market, the biggest new launches that are seeing the most success are the ones that are deeply connected to a broader franchise," Wilson said. "There's not always crossplay, but cross-progression and a feeling that they're part of a single unified community and a single unified game experience," end quote.
Oh my god. Like I've seen a video where the dude just crashed with his plane into the building and it did nothing. Like it was insane.
So it seems
Interesting.
like EA is still doubling down on all the usual things they're known for, which is unfortunate. I still have hope that Dragon Age Dreadwolf and the future Mass Effect game are going to be great, because so help me God, if those games launch unfinished, I will become the Joker. I guess you could say that I'm just tired of playing Russian roulette with my wallet when it comes to modern games.
This
There
is why
really
you just wait. You just wait till the reviews come out. Come on.
is
So that
nothing
helps.
else in my life that I buy that I have second guesses wondering if it'll work or not.
Just never pre-purchase.
Headsets, microphones, butt plugs, it's all good and dandy over here. But the fact it's so commonplace to
Oh,
spend
yeah.
$80 over in
love
the land
Bloodborne.
of Canada and still be worried I may get a busted product is insane to me. Of course, it doesn't mean every game launches like a hot mess these days, and there's definitely bright spots that we should celebrate. Hi-Fi Rush, for example, was surprise dropped on players, and that game's reception has been nothing but positive. It's done so well for Microsoft that it was reported it made more revenue than Forspoken on Steam. Hi-Fi Rush is currently sitting at number 8 on the top 10 Steam games right now in terms of revenue, while Forspoken didn't even crack the top 10 at launch. But it speaks volumes that a game that costed way less to make and had no marketing push outside of one single trailer the day it came out, ended up outperforming a PlayStation console exclusive game that costed millions and had the backing of Sony and Square Enix. While what I say
Yeah,
next
this is what I don't understand. Why do those games cost millions and they have, at the end, much less content than like older games or games which like cost literally nothing? It's insane.
might sound crazy, just hear me out. I seriously think the industry needs to stop relying so heavily on these multi-million-dollar blockbuster games and should instead focus more on smaller projects that are both more interesting and are way less risky from a cost perspective. Hi-Fi Rush proves you don't need millions in marketing or insanely high fidelity graphics to win people over. You just need to have something that runs well and is just fun to play. Too many games these days are too big for their own good anyway, and couple those huge empty worlds with all the technical problems that come along with it. Of course gaming is more expensive than it's ever been before, but that doesn't mean it's better. Games like Octopath Traveler 2 come out soon, and that looks far more interesting than Forspoken or Battlefield 2042 could ever hope to be. Of course, we have other big games coming out that blend big sexy graphics and all that, like Atomic Heart. But as of the making of this video, that game...
I'm a bit skeptical about Atomic Heart. Like, it looks really, really promising, and I've already seen some gameplay and even reacted to it, but I just wait till it comes out, and when it's good, we're gonna buy it.
Isn't out yet,
Very
so
easy.
here's hoping Atomic Heart launches without too many hitches and it's a quality game at release. And if you're watching this in the future, let me know if my prediction is right. I suspect Atomic Heart gets a 75 on Metacritic. Am I right? Let me know. And as I was making this video, it turns out there is even more bad news coming out of EA. It's been reported that they've scrapped the single-player game that was set in the Apex Titanfall universe. Jason Schreier, who posted the story, said, quote, "Yesterday, EA and Respawn quietly canceled a single-player game in the Apex Titanfall universe
Like, it would have been something similar to Titanfall, like,
according to 3 people familiar. EA will try to find new positions for the 50 people who were on the team, but will lay off those who can't be placed." End quote. We're in a weird spot when it comes to gaming these days, that's for sure. Games are bigger than ever, they cost about as much as big Hollywood movies now, and all of this content leads to the possibility of problems happening way more than ever. You also need to remember that back in the day, games weren't updated as much as they were now. Now when you update a game, it doesn't just fix the problem, but can potentially bring all new hosts of problems. Just look at the gun Telesto in Destiny 2. That gun literally broke the game more times than I can count. And whenever new cosmetics or DLCs are added to games, that just adds more possibilities for things to fall apart again, which in turn means more updates, which
depends really on the company. It's pretty hard, but I think it's manageable.
Means more bugs and more
to
updates,
a degree.
And you get the idea. So you're probably asking for a solution, anything that can fix this. My only real answer is that games need to stop being so large and they need to be treated like art again. Because let's be real.
Stop the open world stuff, to be honest. No open world, in my opinion, is great. Even Elden Ring is still lacking. It doesn't have replayability, which is one of the most important things in a game. Like for me, at least.
Video games are largely not being treated as art these days. It's just hitting deadlines, more battle passes, or whatever else. And I think for both the sake of the human cost on the dev side and the expectations of the consumer, this needs to be addressed. You can't rush art to meet demand. That's how you end up with the later seasons of Game of Thrones. Stuff like bugs, crap performances, and disastrous launches will continue to plague the modern gaming world because it all comes down to the convenience for the publisher and developers, rather than the consumers in this case.
Exactly. This shit right here. Good game?
Back in the day when you bought a game, it came on a physical cartridge or disc, meaning the devs and publisher had to ensure their product was perfect because if it wasn't, there was no way of fixing it. But nowadays with the internet and things like digital rights management, or DRM for short, games can be fixed and updated over a longer period of time. So the only way to truly save yourself from the crushing disappointment that is modern gaming is maybe to reject succumbing to day one hype and simply waiting to play later. Of course, there's still plenty of games that work fine at launch, mostly Asian made, mind you, but still. Stuff like Cyberpunk or even The Witcher are good examples of updates fixing the problem. The longer you wait, then eventually the game could in theory be good and will also be much cheaper too. It's not a very exciting solution, but the reality is that a lot of these modern game companies are simply pushing to release their games to hit deadlines and ensure investors are happy. Which, I mean, I get it, it's a business and money is obviously important, but it's clear that at its core, the absolute state of modern gaming these days is just flawed and in need of deep correction. Remember that whatever you buy or play, you're actively supporting those things. I'm not going to judge you whether you think playing something is right or wrong because the world isn't binary like that. A lot of people hated Forspoken, but I'm finding dumb fun with it. A lot of people got mad that Dead Space has stuff like genderless bathrooms. But to be honest, I was more concerned with not getting my head torn off by a necromorph to care about it. Hopefully what we're seeing at EA, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and so many other companies are these publishers and studios realizing that the bubble will eventually pop. It's already happened to Ubisoft, and now they're in dire straits. And it's only a matter of time before places like EA or the Xbox division fall into similar pits of trouble unless serious course direction is taken. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Here's a question for you. Where can you get 30,000 coins, 600 emeralds?
Okay, we are done. Thank you. Like, here's something different. Like, those ad breaks are like smaller, but they come on more frequent. I don't know if it's better or not. Let me know. Like, this is an interesting take on the ads. That's something new. But yeah, that was it. Like, totally. Go subscribe to him, to ENDYMION. I can't pronounce his name. Like, what the hell? Yeah. He's a smaller YouTuber. He definitely deserves the subs because he actually puts in effort. It's insane. And I'm just the dude who rates to this stuff. Like, yeah. I wouldn't mind if you would support me as well. Would really appreciate that. Like with a comment, sub, like, you know, the whole ordeal. And I guess that's it. I guess see you next time. Wafer out.